to Planet listeners. This is Eric Peterson, and today I'm joined by Tom and Dave from
David Ellefson.
And the Sleeping Giants.
And the Sleeping Giants, yes.
Yeah.
And today we were just at the bookstore for a book signing, and that went great, and got to see a lot of your fans. It was great. How's the response been with the book?
It's just like today.
Nice.
It's been really good. People coming out. In fact, Tom pointed out that we were here a year ago at this location down in the valley doing what we called the Midwest Coffee Tour.
Okay.
We're coming through doing essentially a coffee signing with the Ellefson Coffee Company products. And it was literally on that tour, pretty much right here in this exact location where the idea came, where Tom said, we should write a book. And it was just the idea had been kicking around a little bit.
Yeah.
And when we left here, we went back to the house down in Jackson, Minnesota, where I grew up, the farmhouse. And my nephew lives there now. And he happened to pull out of the filing cabinet. He said, look what I found. And it was the Ellefson family history dated 1600s to 1979 that I was aware of. And I have one at home in Arizona, and I haven't been able to find it. And so when he pulled that out, I went, oh, my God. I went into town the next day. We made several copies. I scanned it. We have it on a hard drive. So now we have it.
Yeah.
But that really began the downbeat of the book, because finally there was something to anchor the book and something to really start the story with.
Which it didn't even end up going in the book, which is funny. We're like, let's write a book so we can put this in. And it ended up going in like a digital PDF version that we sent out. And it was like a kind of a bonus thing. But it's funny enough, the whole idea of the book was, let's write a book so we can put this in it. And then we didn't end up putting it in the
exactly. And it's not even in the hard copy published version at all, But
it's like 80 pages long. I mean, it's a significant,
long,
deep archaeological dig into the Ellefson.
So, being from Minnesota, you got to have some Norwegian background.
Yeah, no, that's what it was. I mean, this was the story of where son of Ellef, right?
Yeah.
Ellefson, right? Because that's how they did the names. It was the children took on the father's name. So, like, my son would be Roman Davidson.
Oh, okay.
And my daughter would be Athena, David's daughter. Datter.
Okay.
Right?
Weird. I'm glad they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and eventually they must have just stopped. They said, there's too many people on the planet.
Yeah.
Somehow when Caesar does his census, we need to stop this nonsense.
Yeah.
So essentially, whoever Ellef was, who's in the family history, from Norway, little fjord up there called Helso, a little island called Helso up by Trondheim.
Okay.
In the north of, which I've actually played in Trondheim before with Hale years ago. We had kind of like a whole Norwegian tour, which was super cool. That's where the Ellefson met a Flatgard, right? And they married, and then they moved over here in the late 1800s. I think it was like 1886. In fact, there's a blue steamer trunk in the work shed on the farm that I remember seeing. I remember like a rat had eaten through it, but it's the blue trunk, steamer trunk that had come over. Obviously on the boat, and
that's cool.
However
That's cool
so it's really cool. And our farm, the story of that goes back to the farm I grew up in. Is the original piece of dirt, the original farm that I should know this, but whoever that Ellefson was,
your settlers,
that basically bought that, staked it, and that began the growing of this Ellefson farm that we still have in our family.
Is it corn?
Corn and soybeans, yeah.
Okay.
And the house I grew up in, my dad grew up in it. Me and my brother grew up in it, and now my brother's son is growing. Kids have grown up in it, so it's three generations. So yeah, it's a very cool history. When I left here and said, what, to hell with the farm, I'm going to L.A. to be a rock star, and wanted nothing to do with farming. And then all these years later, I come back to it, and quite honestly, all the stuff that we're doing here has really given me a greater appreciation. I'm the last one standing. My mom and dad and brother are all gone. So ironic that me, the young hell-raising heavy metal frickin' bass player kid, who ran up to Hollywood,
keeping the family
comes
together.
home is like the last man standing and keeping the stake of the claim. But as Tom and I have built our industries here together, it's all rooted here. He's over in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Obviously, my legacy back here to Minnesota. I mean, we're Midwest guys, and I think that's why the two of us writing
the
book.
Midwest Metal Mafia. Right?
Midwest, So it's pretty cool to to be like-minded and think the same with how we're moving our legacies forward here.
So this is your second book, right?
Really, it's my third book. I wrote a music business book called Making Music Your Business.
Okay.
That was the first book I wrote. I wrote it during the Euthanasia album and tour cycle. And then I was writing a column for Bass Player magazine at the time, and I pitched it over to Jim Richards, who was or Jim Roberts rather, was the publisher of the magazine at the time, and a great guy. And I just happened to throw it out there. I said, hey, by the way, I'm writing this music business book. Would you be interested? He said, totally, let me see it. So I sent it over to him, and he said, I'd be all over this. So they actually published it, the publishers of Bass Player and Guitar Player magazine.
That's great. It's totally obsolete now.
It is.
But it's cool. Like Tori Amos is in it. Like there's a lot of
people.
Funny enough, the format's kind of similar to what we did in More Life With Deth. There's other people in there kind of talking and little bits and pieces, but it's super cool. But it is, the fundamentals of the business have changed so much since 1996 or whenever it was.
Hal Leonard actually have the rights to it, and they sent me, this was probably, 6-7 years ago, they sent me an email or a letter, and they just said, hey, we have the rights, and if you'd like to do an audiobook, but just you do it, send us the files. So I did. And it's funny, as I was reading it, I'm going, oh my God, because I was using cassette formulas. I was using... so basically MTV style presentations for music.
I just read it again. I found actually David's mom's copy. We were at the house in Jackson, and he's like, "Here, take this home with you." And I was like, "Oh." So it's sitting in my house, and I read it, and I'm like, "It's great, but it is. It's so. It's just so the business is so different. It's so antiquated now. With it's just everything's so. We were actually talking at one point before we did More Life With Deth about writing an updated version of that book, which we probably should do.
Probably should, because when I did the audiobook, I was basically rewriting it on the fly.
You're probably cringing the whole time. Oh my God!
I got one of the last interviews with Joey Ramone in the book. I still have that cassette at home. We had just a great chat,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
we should just rewrite it and use those same interviews, but just rewrite all the business parts.
Will Lee, from who I became good friends with from Late Night with David Letterman when we played on Letterman a couple times, and Tori Amos was brand new coming up the ranks. So we played at Top of the Pops with her.
Oh, okay.
On the Countdown to Extinction album, and she was brand new, just coming up, and we became friends and stayed in touch. Yeah, so it's just the friends you made. I mean, it's a relational business. It's not the music. But I was just reading a great story yesterday about one of my favorite bass players growing up, Carol Kay, who played on a ton of TV scores. A lot of the TV shows I grew up on, she played bass to.
Okay.
Things like Cannon and, probably Kojak and Barney Miller, I think, and all these great bass lines, So, and when I was learning to play the bass, we'd have the TV on in the house, and I'd go, that is a cool bass line. I mean, it turns out it was her that she did most of those, and played on Beach Boys records and all kinds of great stuff. And she was talking about, that, in her day growing up, it was all about being in the clubs and playing. And if you were in the club, they knew you could play, and they had you on stage. And I always say that to musicians. I said, listen, if you're in the room with us right now, we already know you can play. We don't give a shit about your licks. You're here because we trust you can play. We're done with that. Now it's about, can we hang? And even when we put this band together, Tom called some people from our label, the guys from Dead by Wednesday. Yeah. Clayton from Hatchet. Previously, we've had Ron Bumblefoot out with us, Ron Thal. And so we really dip into our own wheelhouse to put the touring band together for Bass Story. And because it really is it's all about a hang, And one of the things, when Tom was putting this label together, because he's got experience in that, in an area that I hadn't. And, I just said, listen, I don't want to fuck musicians over. I want our stuff to be artist friendly. Obviously, we can't take it on the shorts either. So it's got to be a fair thing for. But, and then I had an agent years ago that told me and Dave, he said, when someone gets a good deal, that means someone else got a bad deal. So the best deal is a fair deal. Yeah. And that means everybody's going to have to give a little in order to get a little, and in that way everybody walks away feeling like, okay, this is good for all of us. And I think that's really what our whole plan has been with the label and given a lot of our friends. Tom's a fan, man, so he'll call me and go, oh, my God, we're going to sign Mark Slaughter. Oh, my God, I just talked to blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God, you know what I mean? And that passion is what always drove the music business in the beginning anyway. Getting excited about seeing some kid playing guitar. Hey, we're going to sign this kid and make him a star, and it's that same thread runs through everything that we do here.
Do you feel like that's missing in the music industry today?
Well, for the most part, the major label thing is almost done and gone, except for country and
hip hop or EDM.
Country and hip hop and EDM, But for rock it is, and And, you know, people don't want to grow up and be rock stars anymore. Now they want to grow up and be Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and invent apps. And, you know, I mean, the rock star thing with music, it just isn't there like it used to be. So, you know, that day's kind of gone. Yet, you know, music still serves the same purpose in our lives, whether it's a ringtone or a backing track of a film or whatever. I mean, music still has the same human connection it's always had. So it's just that the industry of it, the business of it has changed. You know, one thing back in the day, I remember, you know, when I was growing up around here in Minnesota, I'd listen to like WLSAM. There's a station out of Sioux Falls. I lived too far away to listen to like KROQ.
Oh, okay.
And even now 93X, of course. But I'd get up to the cities and I'd hear all the great music that was on, like, you know, KROQ. And am I saying it right? KROQ?
I think so.
Yeah, KROQ, right? And you know, there would be maybe 10 or 12 rock records from all the major labels combined in a year, you know, because they all ran the industry. And it kept the quality extremely high. And of course, musicians would always bitch, they're controlling everything. Well, now, you know,
that's why they had a chance to do it. They did because the labels were controlling everything.
Yeah.
The media, you got all your music from one radio station, a handful of magazines, and then later MTV. I mean, again, you had to be at a certain level, but if you worked hard enough, eventually you would get your shot. If you were good enough, and, you know, there was artist development. There was just a different time.
One of the things that's happened now is, you know, anyone can be an Instagram model, and anyone can be an Instagram guitar player.
I can.
Well, you can, with the right filters, you can, actually. But, you know, and that's the other thing is, like, so now it's more about, like, you know, check me out like a boss, you know, da-da-da. And, you know, it hit me as I was walking in the door here, because I was just going, man, I'm 54, I'm still doing exactly what we did on The Killing Is My Business and Peace Elves Tour, you know, and the truth of it is, you know, you're not worthy to be at the top unless you've come up from the bottom, period, you know. The guy who runs this store has done everything in this store. He's racked those records. He's done the accounting. He's had to mop the floor.
He ran the store since like the late 70s.
Right.
That's what he said. That's what he told me.
And, you know, that guy's worthy of being
we're sitting in his office right now.
You know, and it's the same thing with Rockmans, you know. I mean, it's like, you know, when I grew up around here, I was always the guy. I mean, literally picked up the bass at 11. By age 12, I was putting bands together. By 13, I was booking gigs. You know, we're out getting on stages. We'd play with anybody, country band, whatever, a blues band, anything, just to get on stage and play. And, you know, you learn that it's everything, you know, packing the, you know, no one's above humping gear.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You know, I was just over helping our crew today, you know what I mean, loading into the turf club, because I was over there to pick something up, and it's like, hey, you need a hand with the cabinet. You know, if you're above humping gear, then you're not worthy of being in the music business. Period. You know. And because that's just what it takes, man. It's you got to always be willing to hustle every day, you know. And you know, the road is tough, man. Everybody wants to be a rock star, but most people aren't. They don't really.
They
want
to do the work.
They don't want to do the work. They just want the glory and the glamour, and it's like, you know, you have to earn that.
Yeah. So this tour goes through, how many dates you got on left?
It's about a month.
There's 2 dates left in this leg. Then we go to the West Coast to do some book signings, and then we come back out and do another little run in August. We're headlining the second stage of the Illinois State Fair.
Oh, nice.
And then we have another little West Coast jaunt, just like a handful of dates in early September. San Diego, LA.
And that puts you right in line for the mega cruise.
For the cruise, yep, for the cruise. And then, you know, there's more stuff kind of internationally brewing right now as well. And, you know, you know, it seems like a long distant memory now. But, you know, this whole book and this everything was set up around Megadeth being on the Aussie tour.
Oh,
you know, and then that got postponed. So we, you know, quickly, like we do, we move on a dime around in the Ellefson world. And so, Tom quickly booked a tour, you know, and that's why we're doing this. And then, of course, you know, now I got a little downtime as Dave's going through his, you know, throat cancer treatments and letting him have his space and his time to do that. And but we worked really hard on, you know, shaping the Megadeth record, you know, before he got into his treatments and stuff. So, you know, that's, you know, there's a lot going on. But it's, you know, it's, to have a, you know, a little window here that we can be out doing this is really great. As ironically as it's kind of turned out, But and I think also for the Megadeth fans, as you know, this news came out, I think it's kind of gives a little bit of hope and a positive, some positivity to everything. That it's like, hey, we're still out here on the front lines, connecting with the fans, performing, and I think that's important. Our world, our genre is very relational. Always has been. It was never, we're the big rock stars on stage and you're the minions in the crowd. It was never that. Band guys were stage diving into the crowd, and the crowd was coming up on stage with us and moshing. I mean, it's always been that. And that's just a piece of that can't ever really go away.
Yeah, it's a family.
It is. It
really
is, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about it is we take care of each other.
We do. Yeah, we got each other's back here. Yeah.
So you touched a little bit. I'm just curious. People would kill me if I didn't ask if you knew how Dave was doing. And
yeah, no. It's like I say, he's doing his treatments, and like you said in his announcement, he will keep us posted.
Yeah.
On things. We've been working. We worked. I was down there for about almost 2 months. Kiko and Dirk were there, just last week working on stuff and just really kind of getting everything lined up in pretty good shape, knowing we were going to, at some point, everybody be going home, taking a little break and stepping back away from it. Yeah. That's one of the things with this album that Dave even said to me was that, really wanted to take the time to work on it, step back, listen, really, really absorb ourselves in the process of it. And, there are too many times I think a lot of these records are kind of always done, in a hurry with a schedule, or and we're Megadeth's in a kind of a luxurious position to be able to take a little bit of time to do that. And and it's interesting too because we were writing this stuff, we were working on this record. I was pulling things out of the vault for the Sleeping Giants album. Gave me a little time to kind of reflect on my life, and just even yesterday I was listening to the David Glenn Eisley portion of the album, the stuff that David Glenn Eisley sang on, and it was really just taking me back to 1993, what was going on in my life at that time, and that to me that's what music does. Is it's like flipping back through the family photo album. It takes you back. When I even read like the liner notes of like "Killing Is My Business" or "So Far So Good So What," I was, God, that's right, that guy was around. Oh, my God, I remember that guy was our guitar tech. And who was that? Oh, yeah, that's right, that person was around, And so to me, all of it is just kind of a trip down memory lane, and I think that's kind of the beauty of what we did with Sleeping Giants is we were able to, I was able to pull some stuff out of the vault from years back. Plus, we wrote brand new music. So it's this kind of nice spread of the old and the new, yet it all sounds very consistent. And it all makes for a nice storyline that fits in.
And we found out today it's going to debut on like 12 Billboard charts tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah, we have no idea what the positions are, but for like every fucking chart. Hard rock, top new artist, the current albums, what's the top 200 now? Like, it's crazy. It's exciting.
It is exciting, yeah.
So have you ever had any battles with cancer yourself?
I've had some skin cancer stuff, living in the desert. I realize, of course, they always told us, don't go to the tanning booth, and years ago we got signed to Capitol Records. Oh my God, we got a photo shoot. Go to the tanning booth, and you tan, so you look, not like you're on drugs.
You're probably one of those tanning
and this, and of course I've lived in the desert now for 25 years, and I've got fair, light Norwegian skin. So I've had that stuff. Fortunately, that's all that I've had. My brother passed from colon cancer.
Oh, okay.
Growing up on the farm and, and everything that went with that apparently. But, it's, with Dave, we just appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers on it.
Yeah.
And, like you said, it's to be respected and dealt with headlong, which he's doing. He's right into it.
Well, I have to say, I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was on chemo for almost a year, and music got me through a lot of it because you go in, you're hooked up to those machines, and they're pumping the chemo in you. And I decided I was going to do I had a Kicking Cancer's Ass playlist. And I had a lot of Megadeth on there. I had a lot of the bands that I loved. Yeah. And I would just sit there with my headphones, and as they were pumping it in, I was just jamming it out, just saying, I will beat this.
That Sleeping Giants wasn't out then, because I bet your hammer comes down. Would probably aid in the fight.
And so you know what somebody's going through, and you know that you just gotta battle through it.
We get that a lot with our music. In fact, we just did a VIP dinner in Indianapolis a couple of days ago, and these two guys, young guys, were sitting next to me, and one guy's almost in tears because you don't know what I've. And he didn't really tell me what he'd been through in his life, and I don't need to know. Because I kind of already know. Heavy metal fans, we kind of beat to a different drum.
Yes,
and look, I was raised a good Lutheran kid by a great family, church on Sunday, all the rest of it. For some reason, man, I heard rock, then hard rock, and then metal, and I mean we're here we are,
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced that your upbringing always brings out things from you. I think just sometimes, man, that's just how the good Lord wired us, and He has a role for us to play in this world, and He's got an outcome that He wants us to strive for, and during that journey, our lives get to affect a lot of other people, and because the Megadeth records. In My Darkest Hour, which was written, Dave wrote those lyrics the day he got the call that Cliff Burton got.
Oh, okay.
And from Metal Maria Ferraro had called him and gave him the news, and we'd kind of been working on the music, I think, a little bit on that song. And so here's a song written at a very sad moment. That song, more people come up and go, oh my God, he's going through such a horrible time, and In My Darkest Hour, saved my life. I mean, I might not even be here if it weren't for that song. So we get that all the time, and it's amazing how, as a writer, you can write something that has nothing to do with whatever it is the listener relates it to. It can be a completely unrelated topic, and yet for some reason, music is this. Because music is spirit, That's why when you record it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. It's out in the spirit world, And that's what's kind of cool about music is, I've been lucky enough to be in a room with people who I'll wake up and just write something, out of nowhere, and be around other people that it's like something just channels and falls right out of them. You're like, holy, that's freaking cool.
Yeah.
And to me, great songs kind of write themselves because all we are is just channels. We're just letting that spirit come through us, and then it falls right out off a guitar or lyric or whatever. And that's that's what we admire about these people on these pictures on the wall is through whatever thing we're going through. Sometimes through some artists, they've been in really, really deep, dark, depressing places and have written some great stuff. I mean, a lot of the early Megadeth stuff, we were poor. We were on drugs. We were pushed down, pushed out, held down, held back, had every obstacle in front of us. Yet, that's the music that even teenage 13-year-olds are coming up with. Peace L's albums.
Yeah.
It's my favorite album. So First a Good Sweat, oh my God, I love this album.
Well, I
they weren't even born yet.
It was cool in that line today. There was those three girls that they were in a band. And and he said, "Who's the bass player?" Oh, come over here then. Which is cool.
It is cool, man, and it's I got to have that experience growing up as a Kiss fan here. I remember when there were two ad mats that I saw in the Minneapolis Tribune. One was Bachman Turner Overdrive, which is really the first album that got me into this, Not Fragile. And I remember seeing in 1974 the ad mat with their four faces, and they were coming through to play the St. Paul Civic Center on the Not Fragile tour, and I was too young to go. My parents wouldn't let me go. 2 or 3 years later, because I would have been 74, 75, and then 2 years later, so 1977, Kiss was coming through on the Rock and Roll Over tour, and I just become a fan on Destroyer, which is the previous album, and there was their faces. And today when I was driving up I-35, 35W to go over to St. Paul to the venue, I still remember, there I am looking at the mighty Minneapolis, the skyline of Minneapolis. I remember when the Fauché Tower was the highest tower in the downtown, and then they built the IDS Tower, right? And I don't know what it's called now, but back then it was the IDS Financial Tower, and it was this towering, building. Now there's this huge skyline of Minneapolis, and I just remember Paul Stanley when he, I'd go to the show, super fucking loud. It was so loud, you could hardly hear anything. It was so loud. But he goes, Twin Cities, and he addressed it as Twin Cities, you know. And I know that because we write that down in our set list in front of the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's,
You go from place
you go from city to city, and you don't want to say the wrong city.
Yeah.
It's not intentional, so you write it down. But it's and it's interesting because I was with Eddie Trunk a couple weeks ago, and he's got a Kiss book that we looked up all the stats of that show.
Oh, okay.
This is when they played at the Met Center in Bloomington, February 6, 1977, with Uriah Heep.
Wow.
Sold out, 16,000 some people. And Paul that night wore his Kiss Alive costume because, I don't know, maybe there was a wardrobe malfunction on his, because they didn't change for Rock and Roll Over, they didn't change their costumes. They kept the Destroyer, costumes. And he didn't wear the Destroyer costume. He used the Kiss Alive one, and there's a photo of him. So, I mean, I remember this shit like it was, like it was just yesterday, And because that's the impression they had on me. And I always realize that, that's the impression we leave on other people, 3 young kids coming through a line to shake your hand. I mean, they'll remember your breath, what cologne you wore, if your chin hairs were sticking out. I mean, they remember every detail, and I know because that's the impact that artists have on other people.
And that's what inspires the next generation.
Exactly.
So, well, I appreciate your time and you guys, if you're out, check out the Bass Story Tour, check out the book, check out the album, check it all out.
Yeah.
So thanks again.